What I want to have a conversation with about today is specifically how we think about the others in our society, specifically how we think about those who are growing up on the margins. And as we're thinking about everything from the way we view criminal justice to the way we deal with redemption and reentry, we want to make sure that we're having a level of humanity and a level of understanding as we're going through and deciding policies and putting together recommendations and structures that are then going to determine not just how it impacts other people's lives, but how it impacts the communities that we all call home as well. I'm a kid who grew up and spent most of my life in either Baltimore or the Bronx. I'm a kid who by the time I was 11 years old was when I first felt handcuffs on my wrist. I'm a kid who grew up in communities that were not only neglected, but the worst part about it is that we knew they were neglected. We knew that we were not priorities. And what we want to do as a collective is be able to understand what that psychologically does to people when they're growing up in communities that have been chronically left behind, and in many cases intentionally so, both urban communities and rural communities. And also, what then do we take from that? I'm a person who, I'm thankful for all the support that I've received. I'm thankful for the help that I've received, but I also know that we can't cherry pick our way to better societies. We can't decide who our winners and losers are, and just because we can select handfuls of winners, then somehow we've done everything that we need to do. And so our work, and the reason why I celebrate this work, is because I think this really is a larger celebration of being able to do the hard things that have to be done, have the hard conversations that have to be had, and then how do we think about collective growth and collective success in a more all-encompassing way. I first learned about the other Wes Moore, while at the same time I had received a Rhodes Scholarship. The Baltimore Sun, which is my hometown paper, wrote this article about how I was a local kid who just got this award. And at the same time, they were writing a whole series of articles about an armed robbery that went bad, and a police officer was killed. And the more I learned, the more I realized that one of the people who the police were looking for, was a young man who also came from the same community, was around the same age, and also had the same name. His name was also Wes Moore. So as I was getting ready to head off to England on the scholarship, he was getting ready to spend the rest of his life in prison. And that's actually where he is to this day. He's now in year 15 of a life sentence. And what I wanted to do with this story was really understand why. Understand how you can have two kids with similar backgrounds, similar upbringings, et cetera, who have gone in completely different directions. What can we learn from that? What can we understand from it? And somehow and sometimes the answers are not as simple as we somehow make them out to be, where people can say, oh, it's because of X or it's because of Y. The thing I really wanted to do with the book and with the aftermath of the book was actually test that a little bit, and to say that how we got here is complicated. Therefore, how we get out of it is going to have its own levels of complication as well, but that's okay, that we have to then embrace the complicated and get to work. My advice for a group like this is twofold. One is on a personal basis, and then the other is on a professional basis. I think on the personal basis, we all have to find that thing that makes our heart beat a little bit faster, and we have to go after it. Whether that's individual mentoring, whether that is volunteering at a senior center or working on the environment issues or whatever it is, you take your both expertise and then you take your passion, and then you figure out how do we band together and band with others who are already doing the work to make sure we can actually push faster and push harder. I think on a professional basis, though, the answer is this, is that we did not get here by accident. That, one thing I always say when it comes to even the work of Robin Hood is that philanthropy alone will never fix what policies have created. There are policies that are putting people and keeping people in poverty, laws that are putting people and keeping people in poverty. And so I think part of the role and the responsibility of those who are helping to make it, interpret it, and place it in our society, I think it also means how are we using and changing laws that can better support those who historically and chronically have just been repeatedly left behind and know it.